Join me as I dive into some wild myths about America that are so outrageous they'll blow your mind. One of the most fascinating things about America is that so many of our deeply held beliefs are not based on facts but rather myths that have been passed down through generations. From historical legends to cultural folklore, these myths have become an integral part of our national identity. But what's even more astonishing is that many of these myths have been debunked, yet they continue to persist in our society. Misinformation is a powerful force, and when it's combined with our natural tendency to cling to what we believe, it can be really challenging to separate fact from fiction. That's why even when myths are disproven, they can still linger in our collective consciousness. It's not just individuals who perpetuate these myths either. Sometimes it's our education system, the media, or even our own government. And once a myth takes hold, it can be incredibly difficult to shake. We've all heard the phrase history is written by the winners, and that's especially true when it comes to myths about America. Often these myths serve a larger purpose, to promote a particular ideology or to justify a specific action. And once they're embedded in our culture, they can be hard to eradicate. But that doesn't mean we should stop trying, because the truth is always worth uncovering, no matter how difficult it may be. The persistence of myths in America is a complex issue, and it's one that requires a nuanced understanding of our history, our culture, and our own biases. But by examining these myths, we can gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and our society, and that's what I want to do in this video. Let's dive into some of the most enduring myths in America, and explore the surprising facts and evidence that debunk them. From Paul Revere's Midnight Ride to the origins of the American dream, we're going to blow the lid off some of the most deeply ingrained myths in American history. One of the most fascinating myths is the idea that the United States was founded as a Christian nation. This myth has been perpetuated by countless politicians, historians, and even some Christians themselves. But is it really true? Well, the answer might surprise you. In reality, many of the founding fathers were not Christians at all, but rather deists or even agnostics, and the separation of church and state was a fundamental principle of the Constitution. Another myth that's been debunked is the idea that Christopher Columbus discovered America. This myth has been passed down for generations, despite the fact that there were already indigenous peoples living in the Americas long before Columbus arrived. In reality, Columbus's voyage was more about conquest and exploitation than discovery, and his treatment of the native populations was brutal and inhumane. During the Prohibition era, the United States government embarked on a drastic measure to curb alcohol consumption by poisoning industrial alcohol supplies. They believed that making alcohol toxic would discourage its use for drinking. However, this plan backfired tragically. Thousands of unsuspecting citizens fell ill, and many died after consuming the tainted alcohol. This dark chapter in American history highlights the extreme lengths to which the authorities were willing to go during Prohibition. The incident raises ethical concerns about governmental overreach and the unintended consequences of such drastic measures. Project MKUltra was a covert CIA program that conducted mind control experiments during the 1950s and 60s. The program aimed to develop techniques for controlling human behavior, using methods such as hypnosis and LSD. Unbeknownst to many participants, they were subjected to these experiments without their consent. The project's unethical nature led to significant public outcry when it was exposed. While MKUltra ended in the early 70s, it left a legacy of distrust in government practices. The program's controversial history serves as a reminder of the potential dangers of unchecked governmental power. Let's talk about another myth that's been perpetuated about American history, that the founding fathers were all abolitionists who opposed slavery. But the truth is that many of them, including Thomas Jefferson and George Washington, owned slaves themselves. And the Constitution itself contained provisions that protected slavery rather than ending it. Now, here's a myth that's really going to blow your mind: the idea that the United States has always been a beacon of democracy and freedom. But what if I told you that the US government has a long history of supporting dictatorships and authoritarian regimes around the world? From the CIA's coup in Guatemala to the US backing of Saddam Hussein, the truth is that our government has often prioritized its own interests over the principles of democracy and human rights. So, what can we take away from all of these myths and misconceptions? Well, first and foremost, we need to recognize that our understanding of American history and culture is often flawed. We need to be willing to question what we think we know, and seek out the truth, even when it's uncomfortable or challenging. If you're as fascinated by these myths as I am, I want to hear from you in the comments below. What do you think is the most shocking myth about America? Is there a myth you've always wondered about, but never had the chance to explore? Let me know, and I'll do my best to cover it in a future video. And if you want to learn more about the myths and misconceptions that shape our understanding of America, be sure to check out my next video, where we'll dive into even more surprising facts and evidence. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.